I will check in just a moment here.
Rob?
Hey, John.
I gotta remember how to.
Okay. So it's 5 o'clock, Mark. We got all of our people.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
All are present.
All right, great. So it's officially 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the August Airport Commission meeting to order. And first item on our agenda is the proof of posting and notice. So Mark, have we properly posted?
Yes.
The material?
Yep, it was on the front board as always. Posted it on the city's website and sent it out through our listserv. And I'm sure that airport staff posted it at the airport as well.
I saw it. I saw it at the airport. All right, great. So the next item that we have is public comment. And so public comment is limited to 3 minutes. And it would be always helpful if it pertains to agenda items. But we'll let you have your 3 minutes regardless of what that is. So Mark, you want to explain how people can raise their hands and you can kind of control this portion of the agenda?
Sure. There's a way to unmute yourself on the, depending on your platform that you're using, there should always be a way to unmute yourself. I think what I will do is unmute everybody, offer to unmute everybody. You have to accept that if you wish, just to make sure in case somebody doesn't know how to unmute themselves. Let me just, oh wait, I'm doing this on the wrong computer. Be here. I don't usually do this, but we had a request to make sure that everybody had a chance to be unmuted. And see, I don't even know how to do that with a group. Well, why don't we we haven't had complaints about this in the past, so let's just assume that people know how to unmute themselves. There's a button on your screen that sometimes it says more, and there's a way to unmute yourself as well as raise your hand to speak. And so if for some reason you can't find the raise hand feature, we'll call on you at the end. So why don't we try the raise hand feature for people who wish to speak at this time. And I will recognize them. And now Cynthia is calling me. Just 1 second, please. This is Mark. All right, I'm going to be unmuting Chair Richson from the town of Middleton. And Cynthia, you're on.
Thank you so much, Mark, and Airport Commission members. Hello, everyone. Cynthia Richson. My comments are regarding the number 2 discussion action item on the transportation section of the draft comprehensive plan for the city of Middleton. The existing language in the city comprehensive plan is very important. And it appears that the Airport Commission members have not been provided with a copy of the existing Chapter 5 transportation element language regarding Maury Airport. And the existing language states that the goals, objectives, and policies listed in this section are intended to improve the quality of life enjoyed by, quote, Middleton area residents and visitors. This broad language includes more than just City of Middleton residents. Unfortunately, the proposed new language is much narrower. The existing language also contains balanced language and states that, quote, the city will continue to monitor the airport operations to ensure that the facility is operating as safely and efficiently as possible. And here's the key language. While at the same time minimizing potentially negative impacts on nearby properties. This minimize potentially negative impacts on nearby properties language is being proposed for elimination in the new language. I am asking you to keep this language, please. The proposed new language is also inconsistent with the US DOT 2019 report to Congress that states, and I quote, "Airports should be compatible with surrounding communities, maintaining a balance between the needs of aviation, the environment, and the requirement of residents." In 1998, the City Common Council went on the record stating its commitment to restrict the primary runway to 4,000 feet. Citizens have relied on this commitment, and since then, many homes and schools have been built within 5 miles of Murray Airport. The Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics Guidebook on Land Use states that the vast majority of off-airport accidents occur within 5 miles of the airport runway, and that lower altitudes decrease the chances of a successful recovery from unexpected conditions. The safety of persons on the ground within 5 miles of Murray Airport is a very important consideration. The BOA Land Use Book also states that communities and airports should work cooperatively to plan for and establish compatible land uses around airports and work towards mitigating existing incompatible conditions. I am requesting that you either retain the existing comprehensive plan transportation element balance language for Murray Airport that states to minimize potentially negative impacts on nearby properties, or postpone taking any action tonight on the comprehensive plan transportation element so that the towns of Middleton and Springfield, along with the City of Middleton, can work on a cooperative plan for the mutual benefit of the entire community. A joint meeting of the 3 municipalities is already scheduled for August 20. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. Next, Mark.
Mark, I think you are.
Thank you. I've unmuted all people who called in by phone. So anybody, let's start with those people. If there's anybody who called in by phone for your audio, is there anybody else who wishes to speak at this time?
Jenny Pavlovic.
Okay.
I just have a quick comment because I don't know that this falls under an agenda item. I've just reported recently some overflights to Rich Morey that some of you guys are aware of that are pretty low, like within 500 to 600 of the roof in Hickory Woods. And I'd like to have, I know it's not specifically on the agenda for tonight, but I'd like to have some further, either have that on the agenda next time or include that when these plans are being made, how that's going to be addressed, because with the second flight school, it only seems to be getting worse. Thank you.
Mark, did you get that?
I did.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Jenny. Who else would like to speak?
I'm scrolling through all the,
Okay.
okay,
Sorry.
David Bryce is next.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is David Bryce, Middleton, town of Middleton, Highfield Road. There's two things I wanted to mention about the low flights. I don't think the reporting is very good. I hate to have to send an email with a flight pattern every time there's a flight that's going over our house within 200 or 300 feet to Rich Morey. I think that you have to do something with the, I would recommend you do something with the reporting at the website, so you can actually download the patterns on the city website for airport complaints. It's difficult to do that, and I don't think they really are being tabulated on the website. Also, I think we need better feedback. It's difficult sometimes to get all of the planes, especially on a very busy day. There are certain planes that are louder than others, Pipers, Beech, and also the Cirrus. But some of those are sporadic, but I would say the majority of the ones that fly over our house are the Cessnas, which are part of the school or the rental part. So I'm not sure whether they're rentals or they're part of the school. So that's the first thing. One thing about there was a 425 Airport Commission meeting, and Mr. Opitz proposed to delete a portion of the agenda saying in the incoming years, the city will need to continue to monitor airport operations to ensure that the facility is operating as safely and efficiently as possible, while at the same time minimizing potentially negative impacts on nearby properties. I think it's very important to keep the idea of minimizing potentially negative impacts on nearby properties. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, David.
I'm looking through the list here. Just a second. I collapsed my window. I'm just gonna. All right. Let me look. I don't see any other hands raised. I don't see any other phone numbers that are muted. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
How you doing, Mark? This is Cara Randall.
Okay. Hi, Cara.
I'm Cara Randall. I've actually been a lifelong resident of Middleton. My parents built a home in 1963 within the 5-mile distance of the airport, and I actually just wanted to register like really a positive comment. I have 2 fond memories of Middleton growing up, and that was cleaning up the Pheasant Branch Conservancy, which my mom helped to create as a conservancy, and also taking trips to the airport for little flights. And the airport, even with planes flying over our house, has just been near and dear to me all my life. And just recently, in the last few years, I've spent a few years down in the Caribbean starting a charity, but I got involved in aviation with my partner down there and really began to appreciate the role of general aviation in communities, whether here in Middleton or whether it's Canada or throughout the Caribbean. And I've just recently come back here with my aging parents and my healing practice and got my pilot's license and have been new to the aviation community here in the last few years. But I just want to say that my experience with Maury Airport, my partner and I started a flying club, and our airplane is hangared at Wanakee. And I have just been really impressed with the generosity and the respect of the aviators and the employees at the Maury Airport, so much so that, on a personal note, as my business has been slowed down in the pandemic, I actually now I asked if I could even do some work around the airport. So I do want to disclosure that I now work part-time doing some grounds work, because I just wanted to be around these kind of people that care about the community, care about aviation being safe, and know that its role. And from my international travels, I just want to say we have a gem in this Middleton community of the Middleton Maury Airport, in its uniqueness, in its position, and its role in the community, not just for business, but also in the private sector. In charity flights and things like that. We even pilots and paws where we're doing rescue dogs. There's just a lot of options. I've gotten involved with the Young Eagles, which is education for young people, which is not just about creating future pilots, but it also involves understanding of science and nature and math, and obviously something so lacking these days, it appears, in my opinion, in this country. So I just want to register a positive comment. I want to become more involved in this whole dynamic, and I'm really glad that we're having open discussions about how we can work together as a community.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
there anybody else who wishes to speak? I don't see any other hands up.
If I may speak,
Sure, just identify yourself, please.
my name is Robbie Chettis, sir. I'm at 8632. I'm about 2.2 miles from the airport. Just a very, very quick concern.
Robbie, I'm sorry, you said it was Robbie?
Yes, sir.
How do you spell your last name?
KJONAAS.
AAS?
Yes, sir. Alpha Sierra.
Right.
Thank you.
Just very quick, I want to make a concern. We have planes come over, as Jenny mentioned, just extremely low. In fact, I watched a plane come over the neighbor's house. It was about 3 years ago. He was maybe 10 feet off the roof, 10 feet, and he turned around, came right back over again. That is not aviation. That is not anything good. That's something else, Ken. Some of these planes come over so low over my house, so low that when they turn towards the city of Middleton, they have to gain elevation so that they don't hit the transmission wires. We have the transmission wires right there on Bronner Road. So low, they have to raise elevation to go over that. They'll come right around 5 minutes later, right over my house, and then they have to raise up so that they don't. I just wanted to point that out. I hope that you'll be aware of the tragedy if one of those noisemakers ever rams the transmission wires. I wonder what the transmission people have to say about that. But I just wanted to point that out, that that's, I would think that that would be a concern. Just my 2 cents. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Robbie. We appreciate your comments.
Can I be heard, please?
Go ahead.
Yes, Mike, this is Joe Getty. I live right at the top of the airport road on Pine Manor Circle. And I am very concerned about the safety because of the incidents that have happened in the past. I know the chair has been hit nearly twice, nearly hit twice, I'm sorry, I appreciate that, while flying by, I don't know if it was students or another pilot or whatever, and I understand that he is a decent pilot from people that I've talked to. So I'm very concerned about the safety because of the schools that are located in the area. I'm also concerned about the property values because as more and more planes fly over, the noise gets worse and worse and worse. And when we moved here, the greatest joy we had, and one of the decisions in buying the house, was that we saw 2 hot air balloons that literally passed right over the top of our house. And we thought, this is the kind of area we want to live in. We weren't adverse to the planes flying over. We moved in 2002, but it has picked up considerably since then. And with extending the runway, it will only pick up more, and the volume will be higher, and the planes will be noisier. And the property values will go down, which means that in order to pay the taxes necessary for the town of Middleton and the town of Springfield to survive, they're going to have to increase the amount of payments that we have to make against our homes. That will be an expense that we have to pay. The other concern is I don't understand at all why the townships of Middleton and Springfield aren't represented on this console, seeing as how more than 2/3 of the actual operating area of the airport are actually outside of the airport and in the townships of Middleton, and Springfield. Those are the people that are being affected. That's my 2 cents worth. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your comments.
John, we were joined by a couple other people by phone, and they are also unmuted if they wish to speak.
Okay,
One of them, I believe, is Greg Stern. He's available as a resource, I presume, but otherwise, if the other person wishes to speak. Anybody else wishing to speak under public comment? Okay, John, back to you.
okay. Thank you so much for your comments, everybody. Moving along to the next item.
I thought there was more comments. No.
Okay, we just asked for comments. If you want to make a
Thank you.
comment, go right ahead.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Steve Ziegler, Capitol View Road. Delighted to join your most wonderful meeting. Wanted to make a comment that the low-flying airplanes and in particular the acrobatic stunts that have been performed in the last couple of weeks over my house and the rest of the town of Middleton, I presume the city as a sort, have been very risque, to say the least, and I believe unfounded, rather scary. It's the first time I've ever complained about low-flying airplanes, and I've lived here well over 30 years and have always been spoken in the airport commission, as you're well aware of. But whatever's been going on in the last couple of weeks has been absolutely scary, threatening, and a disgrace to Maury Field, which really works at dedicating resources to the advocacy of good aeronautics. So I have no idea what's happening, but thank you. Bye.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ziegler, for your comments. One more time, is there anybody else who would like to make comment before we move on with the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward. The next item is approval of the minutes. Does everybody have a copy of the minutes and had an opportunity to review them?
Yes, this is Robert.
Yeah, Robert.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes as written. Do I hear a second to that?
This is Michelle Bond. I would second that.
Okay, so we have Robert first and Michelle a second. Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call it to a vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
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 Okay, the minutes are accepted. Next item is the chair report, and really just a very limited number of things. First of all, the snow removal equipment was supposed to be bid today, and I tried to get a hold of Josh to find out what the resolution was. There were 6 active bidders on the actual tractor itself, and I believe 1 for the attachments. So as soon as I get that, I will forward it on to everybody for review, so you can see what it is. The other thing is the runway lighting. The runway lighting has been approved by everybody, except obviously the Bureau of Aeronautics. We have a new individual that's taken over there in that area, and they have our request and they're triaging it, and hopefully we can get that resolved also. So that's the 2 main items, and we don't have a new commissioner yet, so we will move on. So with that, I'd like to move on to the airport manager's report. Rich?
Okay. Very good, John. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. First, I'd like to address Mr. Ziegler's concerns. We had 3 aerial applicators working out of this airport, although they were contracted to spray crops. So they'd have been doing it whether they were out of here, Wanakee, Sauk Prairie, or wherever. So those low-level aerobatics you undoubtedly witnessed, and we had well over a dozen calls about them, were from aerial applicators spraying fungicide on, I believe, the corn over there. So that is, can shed some light along those lines. All right.
So Rich, Kevin Munson here, but both the
yes,
duster and the aerobatic pilot, which are two completely different things. So they're out applying fungicide to the fields. These were aerial applicators. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, that's part of being in a rural environment. You need to take care of your crops, and those farmers contracted with this company to spray. And
absolutely. So that's completely acceptable. Right. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure there weren't low-level aerobatics under 1,500 feet. And it sounds like this is aerial application. So okay. Thank you very much for that clarification.
Okay. Now, as to levels, I know we're still fighting with our, trying to recover from the lockdown and various other things. More airplane companies doing about 80% of the business that we did last year at this time. Although we have 3 times the noise and overflight complaints that we did last year at this time. From June 24, 2020, we have received 33 noise or overflight reports. Only 4 of these were on hotline calls. 1 was made via the city online reporting form, and the rest were all direct emails to my personal account. All right, on 7/9, it was pointed out that the city had not updated with the most recent voluntary noise abatement procedure illustration. That was quickly corrected. There were 3 reports made about night flights. I spoke with the pilots involved on all of those. They're all either training for their private, which requires 10 full stop landings at night, or they were maintaining currency. At least one actually, was based in Madison, had come over here for a better training environment. And 12 of these reports were made by 1 individual, 8 by another. So over half of the reports were made by 2 people. Again, all reports were investigated and responses sent when requested. The bulk of the reports were, under my estimation, for aircraft in compliance with the current noise abatement procedure. All right, no accidents or incidents on the field. Other bits and pieces. The solar panel project is up and running. Also, Larry Wagner, who does the cropping, said that there were some rutting involved with the fencing around there that we're working with MG&E to correct. Also, I have gotten to the point where I've come to the conclusion that we probably cannot afford to hire the perimeter fencing and the waterways to be cleared. I've taken on another individual specifically designed, or for the job is to try to do as much of this brush removal as possible. That should save the airport a considerable amount of money than having it contracted out individually. And let's see, still waiting on public lands regarding the stream bank stabilization of the old pond off the Quisling property that was washed out substantially a couple years ago in the flood. On tree removal, the tree we have permission to remove on Bletner property will be removed by staff on Monday. Again, I think the least expensive route was $800. My people can take it down a lot less expensively for that and haul it off. So we're going to take care of that in-house. Of course, we had far less transient traffic this month due to the cancellation of the EAA AirVenture Air Show at Oshkosh, and fuel sales. And again, hours of flight time remain well below the 2019 levels. As I said, about 80% below that. Also, I want to add one more bit about the brush removal, and I'd like to speak, if not at this meeting, later. Looking into using goats to remove the brush. Not sure about cost effectiveness, but we've got what I think is a very good bid. Get 30 goats, electric fence, and see what they do, as opposed to getting in there with gas-powered equipment and trying to chew all of that stuff up. That's just another option for us to try to go a little greener and maybe a little smarter on the removal of that stuff. But that's pretty much my report. Any questions?
I have a couple, Rich. So with respect to the noise reports, we built this website. Nobody's using it?
No one uses it. I think we have...
Why? And why? And what is the reason?
I don't know. I think it's a good website, but I think an awful lot of what we're getting is, one, we'll either get one email with a dozen reports, or we often get emails with attachments, screenshots of a flight tracking software that goes through and shows the track of the aircraft fairly accurately. Unfortunately, people don't understand the altitude readouts from this. They're set at a basic level or a standard atmosphere. When the atmosphere's pressure is higher, they read low, and the people don't quite always get that, so they report what they see as opposed to what actually is there. But that's my understanding. I don't know. And some people just don't even know where those numbers are, won't bother looking them up or going on the city website. They just call our number directly. And I know that my email was dispersed by the Good Neighborhood group. Someone in that put that out and urged all of the members to contact me directly using that. I was copied on that by a friend in that neighborhood group. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. So,
Well, that's such a shame. I mean, we all work collaboratively at the request of Cynthia to build a website for the residents of the surrounding townships because they wanted a modern way to log reports. We worked together, the whole unanimously approved it, and then people don't use it.
Good conversation.
You know, so I guess what we could do is, I don't know, I have to think about this, but.
John, it does get used a little bit. It sounds to me from what Rich Morey is saying is that most of the complaints are coming in through other means, but I get copied on the ones that are logged through the website. And so we got a complaint yesterday morning at 9:25, one on Monday at 11:03 p.m. But the one before that was from July 23rd. And I know that Rich has received quite a few more complaints, through the other channels that he mentioned. So it's not that it's not being used at all. It's not getting used.
No.
The vast majority of them are not coming through that way. That's a correct statement.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something not working that should be working, I think we ought to try to figure it out and we ought to try to fix it. I think that, and I've said this a number of times, I really think it's a benefit to those making complaints that everything is collected in one database somewhere. If somebody said, tell me what happened in the month of June, they can run a data report and they could plot out where the reports come from, on all the data. At some point in time, somebody like the FAA may want to have access to that kind of data. And if we don't have a good way of collecting it, which I thought we had, I mean, it's not going to serve the community very well. And anyway, that's a comment. So we need to, between now and next meeting, maybe think about or collect information on how we can make what we're doing better.
And also, the information is really valuable for us. If we don't know, are the complaints coming from people that are complying with the noise abatement procedures? Are these complaints coming from people that aren't? We need to know, is this a unique situation? Someone's out there, buzzing, flying low level over homes, or is this just routine traffic routine pattern work, we need to know that information so we could better, make better decisions in the future. So, the more data we have, the better. And occasionally, on rare occasions, there are people out there not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And we address that in a very timely and effective manner. In other cases, they're working the pattern. They're going around and around in a circle, doing their touch and goes and creating perceived excessive noise. We need to know, we need to have that data available so we can better assess and potentially mitigate the noise complaints. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, the data store was actually designed in such a way with the software that we could actually plot the occurrences and where they were located on a map. And we could do some kind of data analytics. And unless you have data in some kind of an organized fashion, I mean, it really isn't actionable. And I think if, it should be in an actionable format. So we'll think about that and maybe come up with some ideas, and we'll try to solicit some ideas from surrounding area, and maybe we can try to figure out how to make it a little bit better. So, all right, Rich, is that it?
Excuse me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's it, John. It's been pointed out that our database, which is in a spreadsheet format, is not the easiest to be searched or not very user friendly. We started tracking this back in 2004
Yes.
when the airport first started out in this new orientation, slightly different than the old. So to try to have my staff enter that into the city's site, that would be a huge expenditure of time and effort. I'm afraid that not very effective. But we do have a record of it. It's just not very searchable.
Yeah, I think if you have the data in an organized fashion, it can be exported to like a standard delimited file format, and I'm sure it can be uploaded, provided there's an alignment between what your columns are in your spreadsheet and the names of the variables in the database. I mean, this is what I did for a living for a long period of time. So we can take a look at that, and I'll make a note, and we'll see what we can do to upload the data. I mean, I'd like to be able to do some analytics. It's very difficult when you're thinking about these one at a time, because what you're really looking for is patterns. And it would be very useful, I think, for the Airport Commission to do.
Yeah, I'd be much happier if people were using the online reporting form as opposed to sending them directly to my email. It's a lot cleaner.
Well, let's figure out why they're not doing it and see if we can make a change.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much, Rich. The next thing is the knock boxes. So let me give a little preamble to let you know where we're at, then I'm going to turn this over to Brad. We had the discussion a while back about access into hangars for emergencies, which is fire and EMS or police. And there was nothing in the lease agreements that required, at that time, keys. However, the new ordinances do require knock boxes on the building. The question becomes, did the agreements inherit the new requirements? And so rather than spend time and money researching this in legal, we wanted to take a look at the idea of potentially having knock boxes centrally located in certain strategic areas that were only accessible by EMS, fire, and police, that would house the keys, and they would be accessible 24 hours a day. And these knock boxes would be within the confines of the security fence. So that was the discussion, and I talked to Brad about it and to find out the viability and what the ideas were. And I have a meeting notes that I posted back in, well, you can see this is back in March. So anyway, Brad, why don't you take the stand here and go ahead and tell us what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to participate in your meeting. Indeed, we started the Knoxbox program before I started here 28 years ago. It does allow us to get into businesses, homes that choose to provide them for us with a key that's kept in a vault. Each fire officer has an ID number that's assigned to that person. And when we check a Knoxbox key out, that computer keeps track of how long that key has been out, who it's assigned to, and when I put it back in. So there is definitely security with that, that program. EMS does have keys or access to keys, as well as the police department, as you said, John. And they would use it in the event that we're not there, or if we're busy, they can go to the Knoxbox and get the keys as well. So during our meeting, we had discussed the placement of a box at either end of the aisleways. And there is one located currently on the main building, the place where the service takes place and the office area is, that building. And so there's 3 proposed boxes. And as far as how it works on your end with the leasees, I'm not sure how you go about that, but I can tell you that the boxes come in handy for other businesses that we have in the district.
Okay. So I as kind of a, prior to this call meeting, I asked through the hangar, through Maury Airplane Company, to send an email to the hangar owners to find out if knock boxes were provided, would they put a key in it? Because the whole program doesn't go very well if no one will put a key in it. And I would say by far, everybody would put a key in it, and they saw it. My case to them was, I'm not as worried about my hangar catching on fire because it's probably going to be totaled, but I'm more concerned if the hangar next to me catches on fire. There's still enough time to get my airplane out and to save it. And we had a couple of questions come back. And one of them was, well, what if the box gets stolen? And I don't know if you've ever had a knock box get stolen. Maybe they couldn't get into it.
Not since I've been here. In 28 years, we have not lost a box.
So, and it's also, the way I look at it, Brad, it's also inside the security fence. You know, somebody can take a window and get into a hangar if you're inside the security fence.
Yep.
And the other thing, and I wasn't sure about this one, is when somebody puts their key in it, is it an individual slot, or each knock box has just a number of hooks and you put your key in adjacent to somebody else's?
Depending upon the box you get, but most of them have hooks that we place the keys on.
So,
and then they would be labeled as to address or the hangar number.
And the process would be to put the key in it, would be that the police department or somebody would have to meet them there, right? And hand them the key, and they would put it in, and they would lock the box, right?
Yep. Police or fire, we can meet you there and lock it up very easily.
Okay. Those 2 questions are answered. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Brad? What the concept is here? I mean, would you like to ask your questions, please?
This is Robert. I mean, we've talked about this for a few months now.
Yes.
I just think it's a really good idea. I'm really happy to hear that when we surveyed hangar owners, they seemed generally in favor of this. Even if we miss a few, I think this is something that the Airport Commission should spend the money to move forward with these Knox boxes. So I don't have a question, but Brad, thank you for your information as well. But I'll wait to hear if anybody else has questions, but I'm ready to make a motion when people are ready to hear it.
Okay. Other commissioners, would you like to ask some questions? Make a comment.
Well, hearing none, I guess I would make the motion that we, the airport commission, just move forward with purchasing these Knox boxes as recommended in this meeting notes document.
This is Kevin Munson. I'll second that.
Okay, so Rob made a first motion and Kevin seconded. Discussion. I'll just make a couple of additional comments. I think that there was at least, I would estimate 95% plus of the people will put their keys in it. So there was only a couple comments that were negative, and I think those are probably lack of understanding. And the other thing I was thinking about is, you know, we've raised the price of fuel, we've raised the price of the hangar land leases. This is something good that we can do back for the hangar land leasers in good faith that helps protect the airport at large. So I see this as a good faith motion in addition to a very excellent idea for our overall safety. So those are my comments, additional comments.
John, this is Mark. I'm recording the motion with Robert, with your permission, to recommend the expenditure of $1,700 to purchase Knox boxes for installation at the airport.
It is whatever is in the meeting notes I had with Brad.
That's what I'm citing.
Yeah. And the city would provide the labor to install the Knox boxes.
The only question I have about that is, you know, who from the city takes that on? We can pay the $1,700 out of the airport fund. I don't know. I'm not saying no. I just don't know who we're speaking for when we say the city will install these.
You know, I don't know who. I just assumed it'd be Public Works, but listen, I don't know the inner workings of the city, so and I don't suppose to. But it seems to me like there could be, and maybe we'll have to find a contractor to do it. There would be a metal support, and I'm assuming there's some kind of a square metal hole in concrete, and then some kind of bolting that goes through it where the heads aren't available. I mean, Brad, the fire department does this all the time. Brad, who puts these things in? Has the fire department ever directed this?
No, we rely on contractors, either who's building the building or the contractors that they hire to do it.
So we may have to find a contractor to do this. And that would be some additional costs.
I'm not too worried about that. So I guess I'd still say let's move forward with buying the boxes with the understanding that somebody, and we're probably speaking for the airport commission here more than anyone else,
yes,
might have to pay a little extra for the metal poles, the installation process, and so on and so forth. So there may be a few more dollars tied with this whole thing, but I still say my motion is to move forward with the purchase of these 3 Knox boxes for $1,700.
right. And then you might add to that then suggestion that the Maury Airplane Company would I guess would be Maury, and I mean I'd be more than happy to help, would identify who would install the boxes and get a cost and bring that back. Maybe we allocate up to $1,000 or something, and then anything beyond that, we'd have to come back to the airport commission.
I would amend my motion to include that. Rich, this is kind of putting a little work on your shoulders. Is this sounding at least reasonable to move forward with?
Oh, certainly. We might even be able to do it in-house. I've got a very handy guy for grounds. We'll see. We just have to pick up the mounting hardware and such. And if all it means is putting it into the concrete at an appropriate place that we're not going to plow it down, yeah, we could probably figure that out.
Great.
Okay,
right.
so I guess my amendment to my own motion would be something along the line, or it's not really an amendment. I'm just changing my motion if Kevin will approve my changed language to say, let's buy the 3 Knox boxes for $1,700 and at least kind of earmark up to about $1,000 for additional materials and or labor to install these.
I think that's a good motion. Okay.
Kevin, will you second my slightly changed verbiage for my motion?
Sure. Mark, did you get that? Mark Opitz, did you get all that?
Yep.
Okay.
Recommend the expenditure of $1,700 to purchase knock boxes and up to $1,000 for labor and materials.
I second that.
All right, so we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? I'd like to call it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. The next section is the transportation and Brad, thank you very much. It's been a long time coming, but we finally got it done.
Anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Transportation section of the draft of the comprehensive plan, strategies and actions related to the airport. So I guess this goes to you, Mark.
Yeah, I can speak to this. So what's in your packet is a document that I also shared with the Ped Bike Transit Committee because I asked them to review their section as well. So this is the goal statement for transportation, the overall goal, and then a series of strategy and action statements that are proposed. Let me back up by saying that a few months ago, like last winter, basically, the planning staff worked with the Plan Commission to restart our comprehensive planning process and basically completely overhaul our approach to it. So I wouldn't say that, I mean, there was work done previously, but I wouldn't say that that's existing work. It is a new approach that we're taking. The language pertaining to the airport is highlighted in yellow. And I put that in the packet so that you would know what that language is to help get you to that language. I am going to pull up on the screen the language that has been discussed from 2016. Boy, here I said 19. And I just had it here, and now I misplaced it. Here it is. And so, oh, actually, that was not that's just the motion, the minutes. I'm sorry, I do not have that up. I will look for it here quickly. In the meantime, you can review what's on the screen. The strategy being to continue to plan for and operate the airport in a manner that supports regional economic development, maximizes financial self-sufficiency, and serves as an attractive gateway to the community. That's the overall strategy. And then there's those 3 action statements. Support the airport master planning process and undertake a community survey prior to its completion and adoption. The second, which is what you heard about tonight, promote ongoing pilot safety seminars and other educational programs to maximize safe operations and minimize the impact of flights over residential areas surrounding the airport. And third is to ensure that any future transmission lines and proposed buildings avoid conflicts with established runway approaches designated by the FAA, as well as future approaches identified in the airport master plan. So the intent tonight was to obtain your feedback as we work to complete a draft of the plan to take to the Plan Commission. There will be text that accompanies this as well. And then there will ultimately be a public hearing before there's any adoption of the comprehensive plan. The language that, oh, I know where I can find it quickly.
Mark, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If I understand Cynthia's comments, there is a meeting scheduled of the city and the surrounding township to discuss this on the 8th, is that it?
That's correct.
So, I mean, are we wise to let that meeting happen, or should we go forward discussing this here? I'm I'm trying to figure out what the guidance should be.
Sure.
You know, from the alders and from you.
Sure, you could. That's one approach. It would be good to get any input that you have tonight. I'm happy to take that as well. If you wish to postpone this, that certainly is appropriate as well. The language that several speakers asked about is that was in a document in 2016, and that the town chair had requested as recently as last year to make sure that it remain in our comprehensive plan, is highlighted on the screen. It read and this was not an action statement. This was just narrative in the in that previous document that we were working on. It states, in the coming years, the city will need to continue to monitor airport operations to ensure that the facility is operating as safely and as efficiently as possible, while at the same time minimizing potentially negative impacts on nearby properties. So that language, minimizing potential negative impacts on nearby properties, is what specifically is being discussed. And what I had written was to, as an action statement, to promote ongoing pilot safety seminars and other educational programs to maximize safe operations and minimize the impact of flights over residential areas surrounding the airport. So the intent is still there. If you wish to have different language, you know, that is the type of feedback that I would like, either at this meeting or at a future meeting.
Well, I personally, can you flip back to the other one for a second, Mark, if you wouldn't mind? So
sure.
My observation of the first one, which I have absolutely no problem with, is it really doesn't describe what methods would we use to minimize potential negative impacts on the residents. I mean, we have certain obligations. Some things may be mutually exclusive. I mean, we have to operate the airport per the federal aviation regulations. And will that necessarily minimize? I don't know. It's broad. I mean, I understand the intent, and I certainly agree with it. I'm just trying to figure out what methods would we use at our disposal.
Well, you know, before we put all this away, I do have a couple comments that I'd like to make. So go ahead and finish up, but I don't want to put this away without, you know, some input here.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I wouldn't want to make a statement that opens the door to, you know, for us to do something that's beyond our scope. You know, we have certain assurances that with the FAA and certain obligations of how we operate in the airport environment. And they exist for a reason. They're standard and they exist for safety primarily. And so as long as we continue to do that, I think we fulfilled our obligations to the FAA, which is, you know, they're the ones that write the rules. So that's my only comment there. But I certainly agree with the concept, and I certainly agree with all of the three things that you wrote, Mark. So I think Kevin, I'll let you go ahead and express your thoughts.
Oh, okay, thanks. Kevin Munson here. Let me turn on my video so you can see me. Kind of eating dinner at the same time. So we had two people call in today. One had some concerns about this, some of the language, and another person that called in that was very pro-airport. And I just want to say I agreed 100% with both of those people. I think aviation is a gem. The science, technology, engineering, and math, especially for women, is just atrocious in this country, the learning. And we need all opportunities. Aviation and aerospace is one great avenue for that. I have a daughter. I'd love to see her get into some field. She's a great mathematician. So anyway, but I would also like to address this. I don't see that I could possibly endorse this section without having a compatible land use plan requirement. We, in the airport improvement program contract that we signed with the federal government of the United States of America, we said we would have one, and that in being out of compliance with that is in violation of federal regulations. So we absolutely, Mark, listen to me, we absolutely need a compatible land use plan. We can't proceed forward with the master plan without one. I don't know how we can, and I don't see how we could proceed forward with this document without a compatible land use plan. Not everybody, when I moved here 12 years ago, I researched the area. I looked at the airport. I looked at the number of operations, but I'm experienced, and I determined how many times planes would fly over the house, my house and all that, being on the east side of the airport. And I had a very good idea, because I have a lot of experience in this area, that it wouldn't negatively impact me as long as we stuck with the contract that I had with the city, that they would never expand the airport or the runway. That's the contract we have, and that's the contract that the city will stick to, unless they want a lot of lawsuits that'll bankrupt the city, which I don't think they will. So but also there's those people out there that don't understand how airports operate and how the airport can impact them as far as safety and as far as noise, and having a compatible land use plan. It's not zoning. It's just guidance to show what's compatible and what's not. It also helps the developers. It keeps them from building a Middleton Hills that I live in, that's literally 1 mile off the east end of the runway, which is not compatible land use. Yep, people aren't going to be happy. They may try to sue the city because they can't build or whatever, but it's not zoning. It's just guidance that says if you build with this close to an airport, expect there to be safety issues and noise issues, primarily noise issues, not safety. You know, it's what I did my master's thesis on, safety. It's generally not as much of an issue, but there are noise issues, and people move in. They don't know that. I knew that because I've been around airports my whole life. So I can't possibly endorse something like this without the CLUP being in there. And also it's required by federal regulation. We have to have the CLUP as part of the airport improvement plan contract that we signed with the feds. So just my 2 cents. We're going to have to do more around this. I know that you guys have been hesitant to do that, but at some point, you know, to move the master plan forward and to move something like this forward, we're going to have a CLUP.
John, I have a question. I have a question because of the notes that I'm taking. Kevin, you talked about zoning versus guidance, but then you said the guidance is a contract. And so help me, can you elaborate please, so that I can understand for our minutes?
No, the contract is the airport improvement plan. To get the money, we had to sign a contract. In that contract, it says that we will write a CLUP.
In the insurances.
Right, John? Maybe
it's in the insurances. Talks about compatible land use. Both. I don't remember the wording exactly, but I know that it's in there, and I think it's both environmental.
Yeah, the environmental's in there too, but definitely a CLUP. It's right in there.
Yeah, well,
but,
you know, go ahead, Mark.
But Kevin, you had made the statement that there was a contract that the city would never make changes at the airport, or you said expand the airport. So that's where I'm confused.
Oh yeah, that's the same thing Cynthia was talking about. When you moved in, and I went and talked to the city and talked to all those disclosures, those hundreds and hundreds of papers that you have to sign just to buy a house. We talked about this, and we said, what was the agreement as far as expanding the airport? And the agreement was we would not expand the airport beyond the 4,000 feet. That's a contract. That's a contract. So, and that's been documented. It's been brought up by the general public in our commission meetings that says, this is what we said on this date. And that's the information I had. And I researched all that. I lived here 2 years and researched all the neighborhoods. You know me, I'm a data freak. I researched all the neighborhoods and ended up in Middleton Hills. It's a great place. We love it. We love Middleton High School. We love everything about this place. It's really a gem of a city, you know. But one of the agreements and the resolutions that the airport the runways would not be lengthened. And that's all been documented. So it's all documented. If it's documented, it happened. If it's not documented, it never happened. So it was documented. So that's what I'm referring to as a contract.
Okay, well, I've never, to my knowledge, I've never considered something like that, that there's this a contract. There's a resolution, but it's not worth getting into that right now, but.
It's not worth
what you mean.
That's for the courts to decide when there's a lawsuit that you try to avoid. But anyway, I just that's what I was referring to.
Thank you.
As I look at this, Mark, and you'd have to do some wordsmithing a little bit here, but it says minimizing potential negative impacts on nearby properties. That's on the original one. And I would add to that, while maintaining FAA standards.
Perfect.
And because we have to maintain our standards. So we would do that, but at the same time, while maintaining the standards, because that's the number one bar that we have to raise to. So that would be my change to the previous wording. With respect to the compatible land use plan, in terms of sequencing, I think, what I don't think people totally get, and maybe I don't get it, is that the master plan is just a plan. I built business plans and everything else. It's just a plan. Doesn't mean that it gets built. So I think after the plan is completed, then you would probably do the compatibility, the land use and environmental compatibility to see if the plan could be actualized. And if not, how it would need to be modified. And we have no funding. I don't think that activity is included, nor do I think it's funded. But I would think that would be important to get the townships and the city together to agree that whatever is the outcome of that compatibility land use plan, everybody's in agreement with. So if it goes on the side of the city, then the townships have to agree with it. And if it goes on the side of the townships, then the city have to agree with it. And so the CLEP is kind of the arbiter, if you will, arbitrating document that exists between the two parties. That's my out of the box thinking, but and that's how I would change some of these things here. Other commissioners, what comments, what thoughts do you have?
Got a thought, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Richard Morey here. Yeah, I think your point of it being consistent with FAA guidelines and operations of an airport. I get noise complaints almost on a daily basis for aircraft that are complying with a much more stringent voluntary noise abatement procedure as opposed to flying the standard FAA pattern. And these people are at pattern altitude flying over homes, an area, and that is somehow offensive to people. That you can't operate out of this airport and not fly over someone's home. I've tried to point this out to people. We've got people that are right by the Bronner Road. We've got people outside of it. We've got people inside, all of which we spoke today at this meeting about overflights. So you ain't gonna keep everyone happy. So if the expectation is so nebulous as to minimize the negative impacts, there is nothing solid about that. You have to have something specific and very specifically about this is an airport. It will be operated as an airport.
We have to respect the guidelines that are provided. And I think the compatible land use program, I mean, the FAA will go out and monitor sound. I mean, they'll put sound recording things in, they'll measure sound 24 hours a day. The townships can participate in how that's measured and where it's measured. And they can engage in that process. And then whatever the final resolution is the final resolution.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
And so that would be my approach to it, but it's up to, if the city and the townships are going to be together on the 8th, that might be a good topic to put on the table. How to use a compatible land use plan as an arbitrating force to kind of come to an agreement on things. So anyway, Robert, do you have anything you would like to add?
Well, one thing I'd like to add is I'm pretty sure it's not on the 8th because that's Saturday.
Okay.
But there's something at least tentatively planned for, I haven't heard whether all parties can meet on I think it was going to be the 20th actually, but so I think
That's
the 20th is the date, but
Yep.
still waiting to hear like agendas and stuff like that. And then the only other thing is, and maybe Mark can answer this, this document is kind of mainly is this a like a planning document?
Right.
It's supposed to give guidance. This is not going to be a document that has embedded in it a 300-page rules and regulations for urban planning, I believe. So I think I agree with the one thing I guess I'd agree with is Rich said whatever's in here need to be kind of like actionable metrics, things that we can look at and say, yes, we can do this, or no, we can't do this, and not have nebulous wording in here that doesn't help anybody. So I think at this point, though, there's a lot of discussion of what should be in here, what should be created outside of this document. I'm not sure that this is quite ready for prime time yet.
Okay.
And Robert, you said something that I realize now, taking a step back, I should have provided a very general background in terms of what this document even is. And I apologize for not doing that both in the packet as well as at the beginning of my remarks. Communities in Wisconsin, there's a comprehensive planning law. Smart growth law it was called when it was adopted 15 plus years ago. I don't remember the exact date. And so some cities like Middleton, town of Middleton has a plan as well, comprehensive plan. You create a comprehensive plan, and it's not meant to get into specifics like exactly what land use, the zoning, for example, would be generated from the comprehensive plan. For example, when you make zoning decisions, you're supposed to cite compatibility with the comprehensive plan. So making decisions about, they address things like housing, land use policy, utilities, provision of utilities, education, educational resources, natural resources, etc. So these are a series of strategies and action statements that are meant to be well-rounded to guide the future growth and development and preservation of the community. And so decisions that you make, future land use decisions, for example, are supposed to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. And there's a process whereby communities can amend their comprehensive plan from time to time. You're required to review it at regular intervals. The town of Middleton recently amended their comprehensive plan so that they could consider a zoning change, for example, to add some commercial zoning along Airport Road. And so in order to do that, because it wasn't something that their comprehensive plan originally allowed, they went back and made a modification through a hearing process to their comprehensive plan. So these are flexible documents, but meant to be living and breathing documents, if you will. But they have a structure for how they are established and how they are updated. And there's, of course, public hearings involved with that. And then from those plans, the city, for example, can adopt a detailed bicycle network plan, for example. Or we might have a corridor plan for roads. I mean, so it's meant to be a general document. This does not replace the airport master plan. That's why the first statement is basically support the airport master planning process and recommitting to undertaking a community survey prior to its completion and adoption. That is what the city's policy is right now. Resolutions are statements by councils, like the resolution to which Kevin referred. That was a statement in 1998 articulating the city's vision for the airport. Resolutions can be amended, they can change, they reflect a position at a particular point in time. I don't consider something like that a contract per se. So there's various statements that communities make. Contracts are legally binding agreements like a contract you would have with an engineering consultant, for example, to build X bridge for, $349,000, with it. And then they have, that's a legally binding agreement. The agreement the city has with Mead and Hunt to develop the airport master plan is a contract. And Mead and Hunt has a scope of services, and they are supposed to, follow through on that, what the agreement is. And if they were to make modifications to that agreement, then we would have to have a mutually agreeable amendment to that agreement. So I just wanted to give some background on the comprehensive plan and how it fits into how the city views it, and communities across Wisconsin, how they use these comprehensive plans.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on Rob's comment because I think
Sure.
he's spot on in a couple of areas. I agree that this needs to be general in nature and serve as guidance, if you will. However, due to the contentious nature of the airport and the amount of emotion that's been involved in this, I think you have to be very careful of the wording so that the words can't be used as a way to drive people apart and support somebody specific argument, but rather choose words that will bring everybody together, so that we can kind of get back on track here and get back to business as usual. And so the selection of the words is really critical in my estimation. And so I'll be curious to see how you guys do on the 20th. And that's the forum. You need to get people together in a room and talk about these things. And I think that's great. I think that's fabulous. So at this stage, there's no action really that we need to be taking. Does anybody care to ask any more questions? Would anybody like to make a motion? Or do we just defer this to the 20th and then we'll talk about it later?
I would like to ask Mark, that this is going to go in front of other people after us, right? Is our other groups going to be waiting for and expecting a response from us in the state?
This is not the last time that this is not something that has to be adopted or recommended tonight. This is a draft that, to answer your question, Robert, it's something that we plan to introduce to the Planning Commission, this language, probably in September. That's our current goal, our current timeline. We've talked to the mayor about a timeline for updating our comprehensive plan. It's been languishing because of various other projects that we've been involved in, but we have made a concerted effort this summer to revamp our comprehensive planning process, overhaul it, put it into this format. And, we are internally in the planning department, we have a goal of trying to get a draft completed this month. And, again, a draft, and then it's subject to further revisions through the hearing process and other, review processes.
I guess I'd kind of punt then on this one and say, I think there needs to be, it sounds like there's more conversations happening. I wouldn't change anything from what it is now at this moment, but I think there's going to be, because I don't know what to change it to yet. But I'd say I'd make a motion to kind of just defer this for the time being.
Or you could accept it subject to future changes or discussions.
Yeah, that too. I mean, honestly, like I said, I don't have, I think the statements argued within this highlighted yellow section are good statements.
Me too.
There may be other statements that would be added as well. I don't know. But I don't see any language in the yellow highlighted sections that concern me. I think, promoting pilot safety seminars and educational programs and maximizing safe operations are all good things. There may be more per Kevin Munson's statements, there may be more necessary to be added in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I would say these are good statements, and without understanding the overall scope of all the issues on the table, right, that would add to this. As a core, I think these are spot on.
Well, then maybe we kind of just, as a draft thing, we approve this in principle, but understand that it's draft and there's going to be changes.
I'm good.
It's, as far as planning, you know, where's the plan? There's no plan. So, you know, again, let me go back. This is just really fundamental. Aviation 101. You have to have a compatible land use plan in there. We don't have that yet. We need that. And anybody that doesn't understand that that is a #1 priority doesn't understand aviation. You know, I don't think should be involved in making decisions around this. That's aviation 101. You have to have a compatible land use plan. You need to show what's compatible land use around the airport and what's not. These have been out there for 40 years. I don't know how Dane County and Middleton got 40 years behind. You know, a lot of people tell me, look, Kevin, we're just an agrarian society. We're just farmers. We don't know any better. I don't believe that. I think it's politics. You know, we need to have this. It's a requirement. Not only that, we signed a federal contract. We're in violation of federal regulations by not having one. And I'm not going to be complicit to that. I've already contacted an attorney to talk about this because I don't want to get myself in trouble. So like I said, I'm not going to endorse anything unless we have a compatible land use plan. Why the city planners of Middleton haven't done this yet, it's just mind-boggling. It's unbelievable. And Mark, by the way, Mark, you know, we'll let the courts decide who's right or wrong. You're not in a position to interpret any laws. You're not an attorney. So anyway, you know, that's my 2 cents. You know, I've said this over and over and over again for the last 3 years. We absolutely, positively have to have a compatible land use plan for the airport. We signed a contract with the federal government. We're not in compliance with that, so we have to have that. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. I don't know why anybody would be struggling with that concept.
Well, if we were going to make that change, we would try to, I think, insert it in the first sentence, because we would support the airport master planning process, and we'd undertake a community service and compatible land use plan prior to its completion and adoption. Maybe something of that nature. The city's going to have to decide. I mean, that doesn't come for free. I don't know what that engagement costs, but I know that doesn't come for free. It may be every bit as much as the master.
Kevin said something, and Rich Morey said too, which I thought was really helpful, and that was early on. You both, and Rich said it, I think, very succinctly, and I was hoping I was going to listen to the tape and hear how Rich phrased it. But basically, adding a sentence under, or adding a phrase under #2, minimizing impacts or potential negative impacts, while still adhering to FAA standards. I don't remember exactly how it was said.
That would be fine.
Yeah, and so that's the type of, you know, that is the type of feedback I'm getting that's really helpful. And so, you know, adding that type of language to this, making sure that we do everything we do is compatible with FAA regulations, as Kevin and Rich are saying, I completely support that. It makes a world of sense to me to make sure we have that language in there.
Yeah, it should be, if you're going to adopt the prior language, it goes at the end there, or if you wanted to use the newer language, it still should be included, because it's a bound that we can't cross. It's a hard stop. We have to comply with FAA standards. So it sounds to me like we have some suggestions, but we really are not in a position to make a motion of adoption. Is that right, Robert? I see you shaking your head.
I'm nodding my head. There's a difference.
Yeah. So I think that maybe we should just pass on this for now, and let Mark, you take the comments that we've made, and see if you can add those, and then based on what happens on the 20th, then we can look at the product of that work. And then we could approve it or disapprove it. Would that work for the city, Mark? Does that timing work?
Whatever whatever guidance you want to give me. I mean, this has been helpful for, you know, I'll take the suggestions, the comments you've made, and edit this, because the intent is to have this be something that is not controversial.
Right.
So, I mean, these statements were meant to be, I appreciated whoever said that they, you know, these statements, I think it was Robert who said that these statements are, you know, there's nothing wrong with these statements. It just, we need to, what else do we need to add to make sure it's complete? So that's what I'm looking for here. So the feedback is helpful.
Luke, your comments? Okay, we might lose it. Michelle, any comments?
I think it all sounds very reasonable.
Okay. I do too. So I think what we'll do is I'd make a motion that we defer any further action on this, subject to the joint meeting of the townships in the city in the month of August, and that staff or our liaison, Mr. Opitz, include our comments for consideration.
I'll second that, John.
Okay.
Or Chairman, sorry.
John's fine. Any further discussion?
So to defer action until after the August 20th meeting. I don't know if you need to refer to that, but the point is you're deferring action, and we'll discuss this again at a future meeting. Is that, that's the gist of what you're saying?
The gist of what I'm saying is that our airport commission liaison will consider the comments made by the airport commission, and subject to the outcome of the forthcoming meeting with the townships in the month of August, would kind of embody all of the ideas, and then we would take a look at the work product after it's done.
Okay.
Any further discussion on that? All in favors? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. Okay, so we'll pass on that and we'll move on to the next item.
Mr. Chair, I do want to, Luke still is indicated as being present, but we aren't hearing him. He did say he was calling in.
Okay.
Luke, are you there? If you're there, could you please indicate that you're present? Luke, can you, there was a phone number that had popped up here that was new that I unmuted now. Is that's not you, is it, Luke? Yeah, I don't.
Ray, I'm on.
Yeah, Ray, I know you're here. Thank you. Okay, well, we'll just assume that it passed 5-0, that Luke is not present. Oh, Luke is saying, can you hear me? He just messaged me and he's talking. Well, that's odd. Luke, we do not hear you. But I'm looking at all the calls. Luke, are you there now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that is strange.
There we go.
Okay, so are you only participating by phone?
Correct. No, I was logged into the Zoom.
Right, but your name, so for other speakers, for other speakers who participated by phone, their phone number appears, but with you, your name appeared. So I assumed you were logged in via Zoom through the computer.
No, I'm on via Zoom on my phone.
Interesting. Okay. Well, now I see. All right, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'm going to unmute anybody else. Well, see, I don't know how to unmute everybody at one time. Okay, I'm sending requests to unmute to the people who are participating. I'm doing it individually.
Got 1 minute and then it's dead.
All right, I just unmuted somebody who's talking, and usually when you unmute somebody, they have to consent to being unmuted.
I didn't have to, but I'm muting myself now.
All right, thank you. All right, obviously there's a operation of Zoom that I did not understand until this evening. So, okay. So Luke, we have you here now, and you're participating, and you've been on the whole time. I've seen you on. Okay. All right, Mr. Chair, good.
So Luke, did you agree with the motion that was just made?
I did.
Okay, thank you. So we've confirmed that, and he've participated and heard the conversation. So you could record that as 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next one, which is adding fill on each side of the Eastern Service Drive, Larry Wagner request. So Mark, would you want to fill us in on this one, please?
Yeah, so this map, pardon the scratches, I did it on my phone. Let me zoom out a little bit. So on the east end of the airport, we have a service drive, access road that goes to the localizer, which is, the localizer equipment that's lined up with the runway. And Farmer Larry Wagner, who has been at no cost to the city, is mowing and harvesting the hay from properties that are not maintained by Maury Airplane Company staff. So we have a lot of, I don't know how many acres it is off the top of my head, but Larry does a lot of mowing. And this area has been a problem for him for several years. He's told me about this before. And he has requested permission to bring in some dirt, about 75, forgot what I said in my staff comments. I think I said 75 yards.
75 to 80 yards.
75 to 80 yards of soil to reduce the steepness of the slopes on each end of the Eastern Service driveway. The cost to the city would be $1,500, which our engineering staff said is very reasonable. They got a quote from Northwestern Stone, which would have been quite a bit more. So, and Larry today called me and said he might even be able to get it in here for less. So what this would do is allow him to not, it just would streamline his operations, his ability to collect all the grass and be able to go north-south across this, what's otherwise a big hump. And so the red lines indicate a ditch, if you will, that is not used for stormwater. It's not part of the, it's not integral to the stormwater system. And so it would basically take the V, if you will, or reduce the severity of that indentation. And he's offered to grade it, seed it, maintain it, and restore it. And so I said I would, because it's over $1,000, I wanted to the airport commission.
So I asked some questions to Mark earlier today. So Larry does this for free and there's no contract. So there's no direct economic impact. I thought maybe it was by lease and or harvesting agreement, and that there would be some escalation in the future. There's absolutely nothing on the income side. So this $1,500 that we spend would be kind of I guess, good faith or to Larry, who does it for free, just to be collaborative, I guess is the only thing I could say. So
yeah, and he's, he does a good job. Well, I'll let Rich speak to Rich oversees him, if you will. So I don't want to speak for Rich. Rich, go ahead if you want to comment on.
No, Larry does a good job. Larry, just remember, gave up a bunch of his cropland, what he was mowing and taking hay to the solar panel project, and with no real problem. He knew that that's a possibility. Now, Larry does have I think a 5-year contract with the city, and it's a trade agreement. Simply, I mow and haul away the grass and don't charge you anything for it. So that all works out. I think if we had to do that ourselves, it would be a huge expense, and I don't know that we could get anyone else to do it on a trade, possibly. So yeah, this is kind of, I don't know, this would make his job a little easier over there. That's for sure.
acreage that he has left, Rich, do you know off the top of your head? Because the solar panels, like you said, took away some of the acreage.
Yeah, I think took away a good quarter of what he's able to crop. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions for Mark or Rich?
Sure, this is Robert. First of all, you answered one of my questions, which I appreciate, that this is not a stormwater ditch that filling it in would be a problem there. So as long as we're confirmed that this filling in this quote ditch is not adversely affecting stormwater. And the only other caveat I would throw in there is I would hope that this is clean fill that is being used. Don't want rocks, don't want fill that has, arsenic or other heavy metals in it or something. As long as it's clean fill and not causing problems for stormwater issues, I think it sounds like a positive thing.
Robert, that's an extraordinarily important point that you made, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. About making sure that we don't want to get something that's got a pollutant in it that suddenly the city becomes liable for it. So I really appreciate that.
Okay. Luke, any comments, questions? We lost Luke again.
I didn't change the settings at all, so he's
okay, not a problem. Ray, you have any comments? Questions?
No, not really. I think it's a good plan, and we've been very lucky to have this guy all these years.
Great.
Agreed.
Kevin, how about you?
I second what Ray says. I think we're really fortunate to be in this situation, so I'm all for it.
Okay, so you're with it 100%. Okay.
Yes.
Michelle, any comments?
It seems like a good collaborative kind of thing back and forth. So I think it sounds like something we should continue to work forward with.
Okay, great. Well, then I'd be willing to make a motion that we ask the city for their approval of the $1,500 to be paid to Mr. Wagner for the fill, up to $1,500 to fill the area alongside the road.
For clean fill.
Do what?
For clean fill.
For clean fill.
Clean fill.
Exactly. For clean fill.
Yeah.
Right. And does fill come in grades? I mean, you're looking for black dirt, right? Is it black dirt or is it anything?
He said it was top. He said it was topsoil. There's feedback.
Topsoil. So we're approving $1,500 for topsoil, right?
That's what he said. It was top. It was, well, it's suitable for growing grass, which to me, I mean, that doesn't mean it's. I mean, it's it's going to grow, so it's topsoil. It's not like stuff that you excavate that doesn't grow anything.
Yeah. So how about this? At $1,500, we'd approve $1,500, up to $1,500 for the fill that goes alongside the road to the localizer, of which the quality of the fill must be approved by the city of Middleton prior to using it.
The quality must be approved by whom? And then you cut out. Sorry.
City of Middleton. So that gives you, rather than trying to write a specification, you guys can mutually agree to its quality.
Okay, thank you.
I would second that motion. This is Robert.
Okay. So we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? With none, I would like to call a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. The last item is the airport financials, which we have from, now I have to find where everything's at, from Bill. And you can see kind of where we're at for the year. The one thing that we don't have here is there's two things that will not be recorded until the end of the year. One of it is the reimbursement of the entitlements for $69,000. And Bill has set up a Zoom call with Josh to get that started. And the other thing which the FAA has agreed to, but I'm not sure in what form, is our entitlement match of $8,334 down in expense. As part of the CARES program, they are going to forgive that. So the 8334 is not a real expense. It will be not taken out of the account, and we will be reimbursed 69,000, which is not reflected in here. As we've had a couple of small incidental expenses, they're not very much, $400, $500 for some lettering that we had to letter some taxiways with and some stencils. So this is all kind of normal operating expenses, and they've been accumulated down in other operating expenses. Normally, I think they might have been in airport grounds maintenance. So the total number is really more important than the location, because some of this stuff is a little difficult to book. But I'd say all in all, we're pretty much, I think, on track with everything we've got, and we're definitely going to be well to the good by about $75,000 with the reimbursements from the CARES program. So that's that part of it. Any questions about the financials year to date for the funds and uses? Okay. So the next thing is we're at budget time again. And I presented this a couple of meetings ago. And so if you look at the 2021 column, what I did for this column, and we have to make one little change to it, I think, is that I recorded all of the income as per contract and fairly consistent. So the solar rent is off of the contract, the crop rent is off the contract. The foliage field might be high, depends on what happens with COVID and business activity. Rich can tell us more about that. The FBO land lease, the hangars, these are all contractual amounts. So we're pretty comfortable with what the income is. What I did with the expenses is I increased all the expenses roughly 3%. Last year we did a different method, and it's one of those things where it's very difficult to predict. So I just did a categorical 3% increase across the board. And I don't know, Rich, you got some line items here. I don't know if you can react to them, but like the grounds maintenance would be one of your numbers. Mm-hmm. Would it be at the airport manager's contract? I mean, based on your experience to date, I mean, where do you think these are reasonable numbers?
They look reasonable at first blush, John. There are a couple other expenditures I'm looking at actually end up saving money on brush removal, but I'll bring that up at the next meeting. They're not very expensive. But yeah, this all looks good. We could probably figure maybe 6,000 for fuel flowage for income this year, just because we're slowly catching back up. But we had some good hits, but it's only a couple grand there. So.
Okay, so your guess right now is we've reduced the fuel flowage to 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my best guess.
And it's a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the uses of funds, some of this is going to go down because we're going to get a new tractor, and that cost $17,000 to fix that thing last year.
Yeah.
So some maintenance costs are going to come out. I left them in and increased them by 3%. So that should cover some of these other items I would think that you would have.
Sure.
Okay, and so I'm pretty comfortable with these. The $100,000, which is the BOA 2080 match, that actually comes out of here, and that is and I'm just learning the ways of the government, that 100,000 goes into capital projects. So Bill has a different sheet that goes on. So I'm frankly comfortable with what we have here, removing the $100,000 and moving it over to capital projects. What is our time frame for getting this into the processes for the city? Mark?
So our capital is due, the capital budget requests are the staff submittals, if you will, to kick off the process are due August 14th, and the operating is due August 21st.
Okay.
It then will get compiled by our finance department staff and be put together in our budget documents, and then that gets reviewed by committees and the council. So this is intended to be a meeting where you provide guidance to us as we propose a budget for 2021. And just like we've done in past years. And then I submit I'll work with John to finalize the staff submittal, and then we go through the process and culminates with the hearing in November.
Well, I would make a motion, because I think we're pretty darn close here. I would make a motion that we accept the 2021 budget with the following changes. And that is, we change the fuel flowage fee to $6,000. And the, I guess the capital outlay would be, we would move it down a line from BOA 2080 match, which is really kind of descriptive, down into 100,000 into capital outlay. And we would provide this to the city for guidance, and then I'll work with Mark to translate it into the proper forms. But I think this is probably as good as we can get.
John, could you please restate the 100,000 and what line you're on?
Sure. If you look at the bottom, the 100,000, I have it under BOA 2080 match.
Oh, okay, there it is. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, that's really descriptive. What it really is the city looks at that as a capital outlay. So you have to move the $100,000 down one line, the capital outlay.
Got it. Thank you.
Right? And because when you translate it from here to the city's forms, everything other than the capital outlay goes to one form, and then the capital outlay goes to another form, and we describe it there as the BOA 2080 match for runway lighting and in lighting.
You are correct.
Is that clear to everybody?
It is, John, and I think it makes sense. I think what you've put together here is what appears to be even a slightly conservative estimate of the future. So I think that's a good thing to submit to the city as our plan for going into 2021, and then also projecting out till 2030. So I would second your motion.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Any more discussion on the document? Any questions I can answer for anyone? I feel very comfortable that this is very reasonable, and like Robert said, it's I think there's some wiggle room in it for some other items as we come along. So okay, so here we go. Other comment. I'd like to call this to a vote as well. So all in favor of accepting the 2021 budget with the changes as noted, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, so the budget as we have passes, so we can go through the process. And Mark, whatever I need to do to help you translate this into another standard format, let me know. Okay.
I appreciate that. This is pretty straightforward, but I will consult you for help if I need it.
Yeah,
So,
if you don't need it, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just got a text, or excuse me, an email, just to let you know that the apparent low bid for the SRE equipment is Fabric Caterpillar. So it looks like it will be a Caterpillar. and the number was $178,200, which I believe is below what we estimated in the entitlement AIP document, which I don't have in front of me. But so anyway, that's completed, and that's the results as I know. And as we get additional documents, we'll compile them together and circulate them to the airport commission, so you have all the detail.
So I will record that comment under your, well, do you want me to record it here? Should we put it back under your manager, your chairman report?
Anywhere you want to journalize it.
Well, normally we do it in sequence, but whatever. Okay, I'll figure it out.
Mark, I mean, is that considered a potential future events and agenda item, or is it something that's, we just learned it on the fly? So you think it?
No, well, John had said at the beginning of the meeting that he didn't have the number, and now he has the number.
Well then, yeah, I think you should add it in under chairperson's comments. It just didn't happen quite sequentially.
Right. May I ask if anyone objects to that, John? I just want to make sure that for keeping, I'm not out of order.
I'm very happy with moving it
fine
up.
with that? Okay.
So that's no problem for me.
All right.
But I still, we've actually went through all the rigors and we've already approved the money. But I feel most comfortable if we provide everybody the results of what we do, so that everybody knows the outcome and is comfortable with it all. So we will make sure that everybody gets that. And if need be, we can always put it on next month's agenda.
And that was Kendrick, spelled with a K, right?
It's Fabric, Fabic, F-A-B-I-C-K.
Oh, way off.
Caterpillar.
Okay, thank you.
That they are the apparent low and only bid, surprisingly enough. I figured out of the 6 that we would get some with COVID, business would be down. But obviously, it shows you what I know about the tractor business.
Are you sure that number is within what we had estimated? The 178 seems high to me, but I don't remember.
I thought it was 185. I don't have, it would be on the entitlements, the last entitlement sheet, Mark. If you can go back a little bit and take a look. It's not in this packet.
Oh, okay.
It would be in a prior packet.
Yep, got it.
Okay. So if you want to look back into one of those, that's where it would be. When there's no change to a document, I hate to keep throwing it at everybody and say there's no change. And just focus on what you focus on. Are you going to try to look it up, or are we moving on?
Go ahead. I'm just looking it up for my own interest. Well, I have it here now if you want to.
Okay.
So is this the let's see.
Entitlement? No, not.
It goes the other way.
Yeah, go the other way.
This is from the June meeting. Oops. That's all we have in the June meeting. So maybe it was pretty. It's okay, John. We'll if there's something off, then we'll have to take it up at a future meeting.
Yeah, what I'll do is I will look it up and I will email it to Mark, and then Mark can circulate it. That keeps us out of the open meeting law.
Oh, here we go.
Okay,
am I there?
Yeah, sorry. We had at 170, and what I say was it came in at
178.
178, so we're up 8,000.
Okay, so for once I remembered a number. Okay. So we're a little high, but in terms of action, so that means the city's match is slightly higher, right? That's
no,
what
the city will not match, because we don't have to provide our match.
It's entitlement, right?
334.
It's just what I meant is it's just drawing our entitlement down by another 8,000.
Yeah. So if you go over to the local line,
yeah,
we don't have to provide that money.
Got it. All right. So Robert, there's no action item in the future. Then is what I'm hearing. That's what I'm concluding here with John.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments on potential future events, agenda items? we'll see what comes over the next couple of weeks, and we'll start accumulating.
Oh,
Hey, John, Kevin here. Just a quick non-airport comment. So I think everybody's familiar with Middleton Outreach Ministry. So, you know, it's COVID. It's COVID. A lot of people are struggling. We're really fortunate city and community to be, you know, to have the things that we need. And this Middleton Outreach community provides food and other services for these people that are really struggling. Starting September 1st, I'll have my photographs from the Middleton Marsh on display for 2 months at the Prairie Cafe, and all those proceeds from the sales. This is the first time I've ever done this. I put these out for public viewing. They're both Z clay prints, which are high quality prints, and metal prints. Pretty neat. Well, all those proceeds will go to Middleton Outreach Community. That's September and October at the Prairie Cafe. And I also have calendars of the birds of the Middleton Hills Marsh. And all those proceeds will also go to the Middleton Outreach Moms, they call it. I just wanted to mention that. It's a great thing. We all need to pitch in and help these folks that aren't as fortunate as we are. And I just wanted to mention that. Thank you very much.
I think that's a great comment, and it's definitely one of the organization I personally support and my foundation supports. So I'm on the same page, Kevin, on the same page. Okay, with that, yep. Any other comments? Anybody would like to make the final motion to adjourn? I'll make it. I'll make it. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Any second?
A second.
Okay, first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, same time. All right, commissioners, thank you so much.